Sounds good.
Okay, well, I think we're live. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. I'm here with author Tracy Sellars,
Hey, everybody.
and to talk about her book series, Roots Run Deep. So let's see, and we are live on Facebook, so that's good. I want to make sure that we were actually streaming. So I do want to encourage everyone that's here tonight to leave comments and questions for Tracy. We will be drawing for 3 giveaways. We're going to give away a Kindle, and it will be your choice whether it's book 1 or book 2 of the series. And then Tracy is also going to give a signed copy of book 1 and a signed copy of book 2. So I will definitely try to keep encouraging everybody as we go through the interview to leave comments, and also remind you that you need to leave comments so we can get you into the drawing. Right now we've got, it looks like we've just got one person here right now, but that's okay. So, Roots Run Deep series. Tell us about it.
Roots Run Deep. Oh, yeah, it's near and dear to my heart now because I've been writing these and editing them and reading them and sending them out to people. So it's so exciting to be right in the middle of it. I really feel like that's where we're at in this series because book 1 came out in September of 2021. Book 2 came out, Roots Revealed. That one was just released less than a month ago. And it's just fun to see that book impacting lives. And I'm already seeing that. And then book 3 is Roots Redeemed, and that is coming out in February. And we have a little bit of a surprise later on. At least Deb has a surprise for us in that later on. And this is just fast-paced but sweet historical romance with just a little bit of suspense.
Yeah, well, no, I think there's a lot more than just a little bit of suspense. Yeah. I mean, I was constantly trying to solve the mystery, and a couple times I was right on track, but then when we got to the end, it was like, oh, okay, didn't quite expect that. So,
right. Good. Well, that's good.
The surprise that we have for later on is that we will be doing a cover reveal of book 3. So hang around. We'll do that sometime, probably toward the end of the interview.
It's my favorite cover so far, so I'm super excited about it.
Okay, well, so who are the books intended for?
So just this week, my youngest daughter, she is 14. She just went through Roots Revealed. She actually went through it a couple times. She read it pretty much all in one day. She had the whole day, and she just read her little heart out this last Saturday, and she really liked it. And I actually asked her, would you recommend this for someone your age, like 8th, 9th, 10th grade? And she said, yeah, I would. She's 14, so she said maybe like starting at 15. And then I have some people that have read it that are in their 80s, and they have loved it as well. And lots of people everywhere in between. So I think that it's relatable because we see God's love story for us in there, no matter what the age of the character is. So they're a fun read.
What's your favorite part of the writing process?
Oh gosh, my favorite part of the writing process. Well, when I stare at a blank page, I actually can get sort of energized by that. I know a lot of people stare at a blank page and they kind of get overwhelmed by that. And there have been times where I've sat there and I haven't had anything to write. But once I can get at least some concepts down, some story concepts, and have a really loose plot, then from there, I am a pantser the rest of the way. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically a pantser is someone who writes by the seat of their pants. And I'm a little bit of a mix, so I like to loosely plot. I don't like to know how it's going to end. I want to surprise myself. And then I write the middle. So it is super, super energizing for me to sit at a computer and be creative. But at the same time, I love to edit. When I was in high school, people would hand me their English papers and ask me to edit them. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. It doesn't stress me out at all. It's just something that I like.
Well, that's terrific. An editor in high school.
Yeah.
But tell me this, how does it work to be a pantser and write a series? I mean, surely you have an idea of what's going to happen in each book because you have to leave clues kind of along the way, breadcrumbs, so to speak, in the
True.
other books.
True. Although I had written books 1 and 2 and got my contract with you with Cross River Media and had not written book 3 and really didn't know where I really wanted to go with book 3. I had a lot of ideas, but none of them were really sticking. And so I plotted that pretty loosely and then started to write it. And then once I knew where it was going, the first 2 had not been printed yet. So I was able to change just a few things here and there, just make little tiny tweaks to, like you say, plant those seeds so that later on they can be harvested in the 3rd book.
Cool. Okay, so let me see. Oh, I want to again encourage the attendees to leave your questions in the comments that you have for Tracy. That's the only way that we're going to be able to draw names for the giveaways for tonight. So. Okay, next question. Again, Tracy, this is something that I've never had the courage to do simply because of the research that goes into it. These books are historical fiction.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I love history, but, I guess I struggle with the idea of being able to relate that history correctly without, totally being off the mark. How do you do it so well?
So, like you say, you want to be true to the history. Like when I read a book that is historical fiction, I want to know that I'm actually learning something about the history of that time period. I think it's really interesting. I'd rather read a fiction book with history in it that is accurate than go and read an actual history book. So when I was writing these, give an example, there are inventions in every single one of these books. And that was really the time period. This is, 1890 to 1900 time frame. These 3 books were written over, that time period. And so much was happening in our nation. And there was a lot of industrial revolution happening. A lot of ideas were being birthed. And I have a husband who is an engineer by trade, and he has several patents. And so he's an inventor with his company. And that was really important for me to kind of weave in there, just because it is interesting to kind of have a peek back into history to see what was happening, what would have been the new and upcoming thing. Did people like to, did they like these new inventions, or were they kind of shying away from them? My main character in the very first book, she's kind of like, I don't really like change very much, so I don't really like this very much. So, but I was trying to be as accurate as I could be by just researching the library, asking questions of people, even asking librarians questions, and just doing a lot of reading and a lot of research so I could get it correct.
Terrific. Okay, so we have a question from Dee Dee.
Okay.
Who is your favorite character and why? And I'm going to say, well, let's run through the whole series. Or maybe if you want to name who's your favorite character from each book, that's okay too.
Okay. So in the first book, I would say my favorite character is the main character, Justine. She has a lot of similarities to me in the questions that she was asking God. All these things are happening to her. And yes, she's off on an adventure. She's traveling from England to America. She's making a new life, a new name for herself. But she's doing so because she's really upset with God. Some things have happened in her life that she did not plan for. And she's asking questions that I've asked. So I can really relate with Justine quite a bit. And in the end, she really grows. Her character arc is that she comes back to the Lord, that her roots, her heart for the Lord has been reawakened. And that's why it's called Roots Reawaken. So the next book that just came out less than a month ago, that's Roots Revealed. And I love this book. I especially love the secondary storyline. in this book. When you read it, you'll see there's three voices, you readers out there. There's the main character, and then there's her love interest, but then there's also another woman in there, and she gets a little bit of a voice, and her name is Elizabeth. And Elizabeth has totally convinced herself that her sins are too great for her to ever get past. And she's really allowed them to wall her in, and she is really isolated. And I think that's what the enemy's lies can do to us when we believe them and when we don't accept God's forgiveness. And it can be a very lonely place. And that's where she's at. And so just to see her story come to life and to break down those walls and remove the bricks with God's truth so she can finally get out of that fortress she's built for herself. I love that story. And the third one, I don't know how much you want me to give away, but the third one, like Deb said, we're going to be looking at the cover here later tonight. And my favorite character is the male character in the book, Ryan. I normally would probably pick a female just because I'm a female and I relate with them more, but I absolutely love his story. He has, about half of the book is his voice, and the changes that he goes through in this book are really exciting to go back and even for me to reread as the author. So I cannot wait for that story to come out.
Yeah. And I think of all three books, I probably identified the most with the female character in book 3.
Okay.
And at the moment, her name escapes me.
Amber. Yep, Amber and Ryan are the main characters.
And I think it's because she's in a man's world before women were accepted. Mm-hmm. And, that's been a lot of my life. I joined the military before women's liberation, so there was a lot of my life where I was in a man's world. Mm-hmm. And so I think I really identified the most with her and have enjoyed her story. Love the necklace too.
Yeah, the necklace.
Because my name means bee.
Oh, does it?
So I'll let the readers, wonder about that. Her necklace and what's her necklace got to do with bees and Deborah's? But
that's awesome. I love that.
Robin has a question for us.
Hey.
Did you visit any of the places where your novels are set?
So, yes and no, sort of. So the novels are set in a fictional place that I created called Waterford Cove, Virginia. But I originally am from South Dakota, totally landlocked in the middle of the country. But I started to visit that part of the country probably about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And when I got over there for the first time in, the East Coast, my brain started chugging on ideas. And I knew that's where a lot of the Industrial Revolution was happening at the time. And so I thought, this is where I'm going to have the place setting. So now, I will say in the third book, there's an engineering school. And I spent a lot of time on an engineering campus when I was in college. So that is kind of loosely based upon the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, where I'm from.
Well, I was going to say, with your husband being an engineer, you probably had a resource at hand with, hey, is this accurate?
Definitely, yes.
So that's cool. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it's 1:15. It's time for our first giveaway. And unfortunately, we don't have that many people here right now. So, Robin, you are the winner of a Kindle copy. Your choice, book 1 or book 2. All you need to do is email me and let me know which one you want, and we'll get it sent to you. So, awesome. Okay, well, let me look through my list of questions here. And I think probably you might have answered this question when you were talking about the characters in the books, about your favorite part of the story of book 2.
Yeah.
You were talking about Elizabeth's story. Was that your favorite part of that story?
It was definitely my favorite part of the story, although I do also like the main character's story as well, because she is searching for God's will for her life, Summer. She is wondering how she can escape what she feels are like the confines of her parents' grasp. And she's like, trying to just, stretch her wings a little bit and get out of the cocoon. But what she doesn't realize is, as she is searching for this freedom, she's actually finding her real heritage, and that comes to light. And I think it's fun that she gets to go undercover as she tries to unwrap this murder that has been pinned on her friend. She's trying to figure out who actually did it, because she knows that he didn't. And so I love that she gets to go undercover and kind of be someone that she's not, but in that she really learns a lot about God, and she really grows.
Yeah, I really love the way that you have woven the biblical principles into your story.
Thank you.
It seems so seamless, and the questions of faith that the characters struggle with. It's just, they're universal and they're evergreen.
Yeah.
When it comes to faith, it doesn't matter whether it was somebody from 6,000 years ago or from today. We're still asking the same questions about God and how he works in our lives, and why did this happen, and why did God allow that, and how's he gonna bring all of this together for good?
Yes.
So
I just got a text from someone the other day, and she was reading through Roots Revealed, the new one that came out, and she actually texted me a picture of the page, and she had drawn a box around 2 paragraphs, and she just said, I can so relate. And it was the scene where Elizabeth, the one who thinks that her sin is too great, she is sitting there, and she's got her hand on the Bible, and she knows that there's truth in there that she needs, but it's easier to listen to the lies sometimes than to actually open up God's word and actually accept those truths for ourselves. So it was just neat to, like you say, it's evergreen. It's something that someone could relate with right then and there with what they were going through.
Yeah. Okay, well, what's your favorite part about the writing process?
Well, I love actually reading it when I've been able to take a little bit of a break from it. So let's say I'm working on chapters 1 through 3, and I've got some ideas for 4, 5, and 6, but it's helpful sometimes to actually step away from it for 2 days, 2 hours, whatever it is, and then come back and actually reread what I've written. Because when I do that, now all of a sudden I find myself in the story again, and I've got all kinds of ideas to go forward. So I think that's really fun to go back. And just recently, I went back through the 3rd book, Roots Redeemed, and was able to just read it front to back and kind of do that final fine comb, through to make sure everything is just right. And I thought it was pretty great that I was laughing at some parts, and other parts brought tears in my eyes. And I thought, this is cool, because I hope that's what readers experience as well.
Yeah, I go through that same thing when I'm proofreading the book. But I mean, I experience those emotions when I read the book for the first time, even. So that's great. Dee Dee has a really good question here.
Okay.
That I'm not even sure I could answer this for myself.
Okay.
What or who in your background helps you write in a man's voice?
Okay, that is a good question. So in book 3, because that's just the most recent one that I've written. So Ryan is a young man, not married yet, in college. And I guess the closest person to me that is like that in my life would be my son. He is a senior in high school, but he is done with high school, and he's been going to college. In fact, he's like almost halfway done with his college degree right now. And I kind of pictured him quite a bit when I was writing this. His name is Ross. And he doesn't have the same struggles that Ryan had necessarily, but I could definitely hear his voice in my head. So I don't think he knows that, but it was definitely a good thing for me to have that.
Cool. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Okay. Well, let me see here. Oh, this will be a good one. Tell us some fun facts about the books.
Some fun facts. I love fun facts. My son will once a day. My son will come up to me. Hey, mom, you want your fun fact of the day? So I'll tell you some fun facts of the day. So if I get into writing, I could probably just be at the keyboard for many, many hours on end with no concept of what time it is, because you just kind of get into it and you just keep going. However, I also have 3 teenagers and we have a marriage ministry, and I run mostly, I'm the one that runs that, not for profit mainly. And I have about a million other things going on. So I can't just write whenever I feel like it. So when I was writing book 3, I had a deadline and I knew how many days that was between now and then. I knew about how many words I write per hour or per session. So I really broke that down and made it a mathematical equation so that I could finish in time and have enough time to proofread. So I wrote in the mornings before my family was awake. And I wrote from 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m. because my kids get up at about 7 and I wanted to come and have breakfast with them and be with my husband before he went to work. I am not a morning person. 4 a.m. is not a fun time for me. However, it was easier and more productive for me to do it that way. So I would do it again. I would do it again that way. I knew it was for a short time. I knew it wasn't for forever.
Yeah, and that made it more tolerable. Probably, I am a morning person, but I tend to do more of my writing in the evening, and I'm not really sure why that is.
Mm-hmm. So, by the time 6 o'clock rolls around, I pretty much don't have any brain cells left. That's kind of when I start to go down for the evening. So I guess it's a good thing I don't write in the evenings.
I hear you there. Yeah. I want to encourage our listeners, those watching, so to speak, to leave a question for Tracy, leave a comment. We have 2 more giveaways yet tonight. They signed copies of book 1 and a signed copy of book 2. So, but we need you to leave a comment so we know you're here. I mean, I could see the numbers, but if you don't leave a comment, I don't have a name to pick from. So leave a comment, leave a question for Tracy. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I would love to answer them. I can give you a couple more fun facts if you want.
Okay, yeah.
So recently, this is, I think, one of the funnest facts I could possibly share tonight. God has opened up the door for these books to go into some prisons and some women's correctional facilities. And I never would have thought of that. I never would have even, it wasn't on my radar at all. But the day before this door opened, I was praying about God getting these books into more ladies' hands, people that needed to hear his truth. And the very next morning, I walked into church and was talking with a woman, and this is what came out in the conversation. And so I ordered more. They came today, and on Sunday, I'm giving these to her, and she's already pushed them through all the channels. Like, this is a done deal. They're going into these places, and I am so excited. So super, super fun fact. And as I was reading book 3, a few weeks ago, I knew this was coming. I knew that, and so I started to read it through the eyes of people that don't have their freedom right now, but can still have freedom in their heart. And I read it with new eyes, and that was really, really exciting.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. So was this woman part of a prison ministry, or?
No, she's not part of a prison ministry, but she has some connections, and she's read my books, and she was talking about how much she loved them and how much she wished she could get the women that she knows in the prisons to have these in their hands. And so we started to talk through that, and our eyes just both kind of lit up, and we're like, what do you think? And yeah, and she was able to get the approval because she knows some people. So it was really, really neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Um, and I want to encourage questions. Come on, let's make some questions. I don't like to always be the one throwing them out there. Is there something that you would like to share?
Something that I would like to share?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this the other day, and it's not something that comes up a lot, but I think it's worth noting that in the back of each one of the books of this trilogy, there are discussion questions. They talk about the characters, but really the discussion questions are for is to talk about or pinpoint what the characters are going through and how we can relate those biblical truths in our own lives. So I think this would be great for a readers group or possibly even a Bible study for a few weeks to go through this book, go through the discussion questions. There's scripture in it. It encourages the readers to do scripture on their own and to write out their answers. Just great starting off places for great discussions.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the questions that you have in the back of the book. Very thorough.
So I can tell you why those are thorough because my husband and I, we do marriage counseling, and as part of our counseling every week we give homework questions. So I've been writing homework questions for a very long time, and it's something that we're meeting with a couple tomorrow night, and they have to have their homework turned in the night before. So we got their homework tonight, so we'll review that, and we always start off our counseling sessions going over their homework for the week, because it's one thing to read God's word or to hear God's word in church and you just kind of, oh yeah, like that's great, I agree with that, I see that in the book, sure. But it's another thing to dig in a little bit deeper for yourself and to even write out the questions and take those things to the Lord in prayer. That takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. We've got a question from Robin. What marketing is giving you the best results?
That is a great question. So one of the things that I've done is I did a contest for this book. So people could enter to have their first names as the main characters in the book. I did that for all 3 books. And I did it for main characters. I did it for some secondary characters as well. And it's been really fun to not only introduce those people on Facebook, like, hey, meet the real Charlotte, meet the real James, meet the real Justine from book 1. I'm going to be doing the characters from book 2 here soon. Like meet the real Summer and Christian and all that. And it's so neat to see them share on their own Facebook pages. And then people say, oh, I really want to get a hold of that book because you're in it, so to speak. And your marriage testimony is in the back of it. So I'd say that is been a really fun marketing strategy that I guess I didn't really intend on being a marketing strategy. I wanted to bless people. I wanted them to give them an opportunity to think about the covenant that God's made with them. And so they can think about the covenant they're keeping with their own spouse if they're married. So that's been kind of fun. And then I would say Facebook mainly has been a really great place for me to connect with readers. I have done some ARC readers on there, the advanced reader copies, and gotten some great feedback from that and been able to do some reviews from those. And I just got 3 new reviews today from doing something like that. So that's been really good. I would recommend it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so we're at the bottom of the hour. I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do our cover reveal for book 3.
Awesome.
So I just have to figure this out. Let me see. So that we just have me somehow here. There we go. Now let me share my screen. This is, folks, the cover for book 3. It is gorgeous.
Woohoo! I love it.
Yeah. And the story takes place in the wintertime. So yeah, it's just a perfect, I love the snow. And where it's December, we've had such warm weather here that it's been hard to believe that it's actually December. Although the last couple of days we've dipped down into the 20s at night, and the high was, like in the 30s. So it's been more winter-like in the last couple of days. But
so this book starts out on Valentine's Day of 1899, and during that time in history was the Great Blizzard of 1899. It was all on the Eastern Seaboard. It's very interesting to read about. And it plays a lot into the first few chapters of the book. So it was actually kind of based upon real events. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then the very last scene in the book is February 14th of 1900. So it's a whole year later, and it's not snowing that night. But the story definitely starts out in the snow. So it's kind of fun to have that on the front cover. I love it.
Yeah. So Carrie Dennis Design has done the book covers for all three of these books, and she's really done a beautiful job with these books. So
yeah, I would highly recommend her. She's great.
So our next giveaway would be the signed copy of book 1, and Stacy Jensen Mollis is the winner.
Awesome. And that is this one here, Roots Reawakened. Awesome.
So Stacy, let's see, she lives here in town where I live.
Oh, wow.
I think, Stacy, you have my email. Maybe email me or text me. We'll private message me, whatever, so that we can get your address, and I will get your address to Tracy so that she can get that book to you.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Okay, well, let's wind down a little bit here.
Okay.
And I know all of the attendees that are here tonight. We're all writers. Stacy writes. She's written a lot of kids' books, but she has written some for adults as well.
Awesome.
So, what would you have to say to someone who wants to become a published author?
So, yeah, this would be not to you ladies in particular, then. This would be to someone who has it in their heart, but they haven't taken that leap yet. Because all of us that are here tonight that are writers, we're in that spot too. We were in a spot where we felt like God was laying it on our hearts. We felt like there was maybe a talent there or a calling there. There was something there that kept tapping us on the shoulder. And I definitely had that for years and years. And there was a lot of days where I actually didn't listen to that calling. I didn't listen. I was fearful and doubtful, and I didn't really know where to start. And I would say where to start is to be a great reader. Read what you are interested in possibly writing someday, and read as much as you can. And also write as much as you can. Before I wrote these books, I was writing a radio broadcast every single week. So I've written hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words, and that has helped hone my skill. Even though that was nonfiction and this is fiction, it's still, anytime you can write, that's going to help you hone your craft. And when I felt God prompting me to write, I wanted to write something meaningful. I wanted to write something that if I was going to spend thousands of hours on something, I wanted it to count. And so maybe that was part of my doubt. Like, what if I write this? What if I actually make a whole book and it never goes anywhere? It never does anything other than just sit on my computer in a document. That was scary to me. But at the same time, I knew that God was asking me to be obedient to him. And there was many years where I was not. And I let my fears speak to that. So I would say, get as close to God as you possibly can. Read his word. Spend time in prayer with him. Know what he's asking you to do. And then when you start writing, write for him. Don't write for yourself or in your own glory. If you write for him and his word is included in the pages of your book, his word doesn't return void. That's what Isaiah tells us, that God's word accomplishes that for which he sends it. And he can send it through a children's book, through nonfiction, through fiction. He can send it through a newspaper article, whatever you're writing. He can send out his word to people who need him. So I would encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to take classes, to learn as much as you can about the writing industry, about the writing process, about the craft and how to hone your craft. There was many people that I learned from and am still learning from, never stopped learning. that really have helped me to get to where I am today. And one of the places you can do that is at writers' conferences. Writers' conferences aren't just going to meet people in the industry, although that is part of it. Tons of workshops, tons of classes. You can get the video, you can get the audio, you can go home and learn it again and learn it deeper. So I'd highly encourage you to go to writers' conferences, especially Christian writers' conferences.
Terrific advice, terrific. And from my own experience, let me add that sometimes God kind of has to kick you in the rear end. I had always talked about wanting to be a writer, but wasn't really doing a whole lot about it.
Mhm.
I did work at Focus as a copywriter, and when I left Focus, I had the intention of finding another job. And God just lined everything up to the point where I couldn't find that job. So it was like, okay, I guess it's time to write that book. So that's what it took. I mean, he had to kick me in the rear end to actually follow through with the assignment that he had given me. And so, yeah, better to do it your way than to be stubborn and have God have to take you by the hand and say, look,
Yeah.
I want you to do this. So
my husband has always said to me, what if you are obedient and you write this book or these books and no one ever reads them? Would you still do it? Is it still worth it to be obedient? And the answer to that is yes, because God is worth it. And he might be asking you to write, whoever is listening, he might be asking you to write, maybe not so that someone can read it someday, or maybe that's further down the road, but probably to teach you something about himself and to grow you in him. I know he has used this process of writing and being published and the marketing and all this stuff to grow me in him and to show me himself over and over. So that's worth it right there.
Yeah, very much so. Final words?
Final words. Oh, gosh. Well, I would encourage you to connect with me on Facebook for sure and Instagram. So you can connect with me personally at David and Tracy Sellars or on our ministry page, which is Vows to Keep. So like wedding vows to keep. And we've got a website as well where you can see more about the books and more about our ministry. We are at vowstokeep.com and we do events and we do online events. So anybody can attend anywhere. We just have one in October that was just an online event. You could do it from your own location. And we also offer all kinds of resources for your marriage, including radio broadcasts and podcasts and counseling. So love to connect with you online.
Terrific. Tracy, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I love this series, and I know, well, obviously your readers are enjoying it too.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's got that touch of, well, it's got romance for sure, but it's not heavy romance. It's not just romance. There's this mystery and there's suspense and definitely excitement and some humor to each of them and lots of characters to fall in love with. So I want to say thank you to everybody that was here tonight.
Yes,
thank you again, Tracy. And
Book
3, again, it launches early February of next year in time for Valentine's Day. If you weren't here earlier, Book 3 actually opens on Valentine's Day. So that's why we're launching it in February.
That's right.
In conjunction with when the story starts. So thanks for being here, and Merry Christmas to you and your family, Tracy. And
Merry Christmas. Thank
you. To those who are here in attendance. Thanks very much. All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.